I'm excited to bring up our first storyteller. Nicole is here with this story. Nicole's here with a story about a moment that set her on a new path, even as she was still on her existing one. Take it away, Nicole.
All right, thank you. Hi, I'm Nicole. And before I start my story, I'd like to just invite you all tonight, after you hear all of our stories, to continue with something pretty special. Tonight, from the International Space Station, three of our crew members, NASA astronaut Chris Cassidy, and two Russian cosmonauts, Anatoly and Ivan, will be coming home after almost 200 days on the space station. They land at 10:55 p.m. Eastern Time, and you can find that online at nasa.gov or on the NASA TV station, hopefully on your TV. And I hope you'll take the time to watch them come back to Earth. So I'll start back to me, huh? I am an artist and an astronaut, and most importantly, I'm a mom. I grew up in Clearwater, Florida, which is just up the street from where I am right now. And I'm proud to say that Clearwater High School is the only high school in the country with two astronaut graduates, me and Bruce Melnick. Now, there is rumor that somewhere in New Jersey, there's a high school where the Kelly twins went, but we just don't count that one. So when I think about the path that led me to sitting here with you tonight, I am most thankful for parents who shared what they loved with me, because I realize now what a positive impact that had on my life. My mom is a nurse and has always been very creative. She actually sewed all of mine and my sister's clothes while we were growing up, which I can not even imagine. She has always included us in all or any of the artsy craftsy things that she was doing. And if I was going to get to a ballet lesson or to softball practice, it's because she got me there. My dad loved to build and fly small airplanes. So our family spent a lot of time out at the local airport. I developed a love of flying of my own. I spent a lot of time flying with him. I wanted to fly myself, but more, I wanted to know how things fly. And while I have a vivid memory of watching that moon landing with my family when I was 6, and even then knowing that that was something really extraordinary, I had no idea that one day I would end up in space as an astronaut myself. My love of flying and how airplanes fly led me to studying aeronautical engineering. I earned my private pilot's license right out of high school. And while I was at university, I discovered that if you want to know how airplanes fly, why would you not want to know how rocket ships fly? And after graduating, I was really fortunate to be hired as a NASA engineer at the Kennedy Space Center, working on both the Space Shuttle and the International Space Station programs. And while I was there helping get the space shuttles ready to fly, I had the opportunity to meet a lot of astronauts. And I discovered the fact that 99.9% of an astronaut's job is not flying in space. It's here on the ground. And at least 80% of it, as far as I could tell, seemed a lot like what I was already doing as a NASA engineer. And that's when I started thinking that astronaut might be possible for me. Because until then, I always thought, oh, astronaut, that's something only other special people get to do. Why would they ever pick me? And I almost doubted myself out of such an extraordinary experience. But thankfully, I spoke to a couple people that I consider to be mentors who encouraged me to do the one thing that I had total control of, which was to pick up the pen and fill out the application. To me, the astronaut job was always about more than the adventure. I don't think any of us strap on to 7 million pounds of exploding rocket fuel beneath us because it's just going to be fun. We believe in the greater good of the work we do in space. We know it's helping us explore farther off our planet. But more importantly, that all the work we do in space is about improving life on Earth. And I wanted to be a part of that. So after a couple tries at applying, I was selected into the astronaut class of 2000. The years of preparing for my first space flight were filled with training and supporting the ongoing missions. And the highlights for me were traveling to our partner countries around the world, training there, the expeditionary training events like cold weather survival in Moscow and Canada, Moscow's coldest day in 100 years. And yes, as Katie asked, it was cold. And water survival in the Black Sea during one of their hottest summers on record. It was hot. And an 18-day underwater mission on the Aquarius undersea habitat, the absolute best analog to living and working in space. The one thing that all of our training and work has in common is that it's all centered around us working together as a good team, as a crew. And in all of our training and in the way we fly together, we do it with a here's how we can, not why we can't approach. We believe there's a solution to every challenging problem, and we respect the value that comes from a diverse crew and experiences. The day that you finally get to go to space seems to take forever to arrive. But at the same time, in hindsight, I guess, it seems to arrive like a blur. There's a lot of things to consider, of course, in the final preparation for a space flight. So I'm very thankful for the people who supported us here on the ground to help us pack for the trip. We get a really small bag allotted for personal items. And at the top of my list was my 7-year-old son's little stuffed toy dog named Sports. I also brought my favorite book, West with the Night by Beryl Markham, photographs and little trinkets for my family and friends, and a watercolor paint kit. And all of these items were special to me. And I selected them to help me stay connected to home and what I love. But I think more importantly, for those people at home to feel connected to me and my mission in space. And I think you'll hear tonight that connection is a word that comes to mind a lot when we think about our time in space. While I was on the ISS, the farthest I have ever been from home, looking down on Earth, I felt more connected to everyone and everything below me than I had with my feet planted on the ground. Earth became my home. I remember feeling like I wasn't just seeing the beautiful translucence and iridescence and color of our planet below me, but I was feeling it and I was capturing it with my heart, like it was becoming part of me. And in all the complexity of spaceflight, I was profoundly impacted by 3 simple truths. We live on a planet. We are all Earthlings. And the only border that matters is that thin blue line of atmosphere that blankets and protects us all. Everything is interconnected. We go to space and we live on board a mechanical spacecraft that we've built to mimic as best we can what Earth does for us naturally. While we're there, we are acutely aware that this mechanical spacecraft is our life support system, of how much CO2 is in our atmosphere, if we have enough clean drinking water, the integrity of our thin metal hull, and we have a deep reliance on and appreciation for the value of all of our crewmates. I believe the way we live and work together on the International Space Station is absolutely the best example of how we should be living and working together as crewmates here on Spaceship Earth. So 5 years ago, I made the difficult decision to retire from NASA and start my next mission in life. I kept coming back to the opportunity I had to paint in space and how I might be able to use my art to share the spaceflight experience with others. My hope is that the backstory helps people become aware of the work being done on the space station that, like I've said before, is all about improving life on Earth, and that it helps them, that it helps you make your own connection to the 3 lessons of planet, Earthling, and thin blue line. So I melded the art and space that I love together, and while I've been creating my own artwork, more importantly, I began working on space-themed art therapy projects with kids in hospitals and refugee centers around the world, which then led to the formation of the Space for Art Foundation. At Space for Art, we are uniting a planetary community of children through the awe and wonder of space exploration and the healing power of art. One of the first painting sessions in the hospital with the children really stands out for me. I was sitting next to a beautiful little 8-year-old girl who was undergoing cancer treatment at the hospital. She was wearing a colorful hat because she'd lost all her hair, and she was really, really talkative. And we were painting together on small pieces of fabric for one of our art spacesuits and talking about the stars. And then very matter-of-factly, she looks at me and she says, "You know, Miss Nicole, what you do as an astronaut seems a lot like the treatment that I'm going through in the hospital." And I was really shocked by this. But I smiled and kept painting, and I asked her to tell me what she meant. And she kept on painting and said, you can't see your family and friends the same way. You can't just go outside anytime you want. You have to eat different foods. They're doing all kinds of tests on you. Your body's changing. And I think you have the radiation too. I mean, holy moly. She was so right. Her words really impacted me. I left the hospital that day feeling like there is no way that she could possibly be as inspired by astronaut as I was by her beyond her years, wisdom and strength. This little girl really touched my heart. This was the day I discovered my new mission. I realized then that I'd been blessed with the opportunity to fly in space so that I could come back to Earth and work on these projects with these children. And it makes perfect sense to me now. We should always be looking for ways to use our experiences to help make life better. Thank you.